this, so we'll save a little bit of time. So let's just take you on a little bit of a tour. So if you had to set off from here, you might see fulmar nesting on the cliffs at Hunstanton, seabird spectacle at Sneddisham, then meander your way through a tapestry of dunes, salt marshes, mudflats all the way around the coast. And you pass the ports of King's Lynn and Boston, the nature reserves at Frampton and Preston, and eventually reach Gibraltar Point, Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust reserve on the other edge of the Wash. The scale and combination of the habitats here make it the most important estuary for wetland birds in the country. So Judith talked a little bit about designations earlier. Here's the boundary in yellow. You should be able to see the Wash Site of Special Scientific Interest shown alongside the proposed barrier reef. We've taken all the information we've got based on my talk on tonight on what's on Centreport's website and is publicly available. So we're as up to date as the rest of us. You've not only got the triple SI, you've also got international designations as the Wash Special Protection Area for Birds, the Wash North Norfolk Coast Special Area Conservation for Habitats and Animals, and are all also under the protection of the Ramsar International Convention on the Protection of Wetlands. And in addition, whilst this isn't legislation, there is a proposal to include the Wash as part of an East Coast Flyway World Heritage Site proposal, which has got initial approval from the UK government. And if successful, this would secure international recognition for the Wash alongside similar international treasures such as the Great Barrier Reef and the Galapagos Islands. But why is this also important? Why is the mosaic of dunes, salt marsh, mudflats and intertidal habitats in the Wash attracted all these legal protections? So, anyone spot the oyster catcher? The Wash is of critical importance for bird life all year round. It's a vital stop-off point for millions of migratory birds, and during the winter can support over 400,000 of them. The wade spectacle is out of this world, with thousands of birds such as knot and dunlin flocking here during low tide to feed on the rich invertebrate life in the mudflats. The sheer numbers mean the Wash is of international importance for 16 species of birds, including pinkfoot geese, godwits, curlew, and redshank. It also holds a large breeding colony of common seal, perhaps 7% of the national population, which fall out on the sheltered sand flats, but then hunt maybe 30 miles out into the North Sea. And is equally famous for its shell fisheries, an example of the importance of the Wash both to human and wildlife communities. So with the time available, I've only really been able to give you the briefest impressions of the importance of the Wash for wildlife. I definitely encourage you to visit one of the nature reserves around its edge to find out more and fill in all the gaps. But now we'll look at why we're concerned about this parish proposal based on the information that we've got to date. So these are screenshots from the Centreport website, detailing some of the things we might see. But we believe that any barrage here would have a catastrophic impact on the Wash, permanently degrading all the habitats from subtidal and intertidal sands, mudflats, salt marsh, dunes, as well as the negative impacts on the communities that earn their living from the rich tapestry of life that we have here. So cast your mind back to 1930 if you can. This isn't the first time someone's proposed this idea. We know about the impacts of barrages already. The Victorians talked about filling the Wash in and creating a whole new county. And this magazine article from 1930 talks about an idea to wall it off to create a new racetrack. And can we learn, can we learn from other tidal barrages? There have been many proposals, but few actually ever built. The Ross in Brittany here opened in 1966. The tidal range is reduced, reducing intertidal areas behind the barrage, with conflict between local communities and the operator. Silting has impacted on the river ecosystem, and once abundant eels, sandhills and plaice have been completely lost. The fish that remain are subject to high mortality due to the strong currents caused by the turbines. And we'd expect similar losses to intertidal habitats and fish species here in the Wash, with impacts on the fisheries, the seal populations, and any fish nurseries present. So this is another excerpt from Centreport. This is my best guess as to where the barrage will land. That guess is not fixed at the moment, but let's have a little look at what habitats would directly be lost when this makes landfall. So here we've got Gibraltar Point. a Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust National Nature Reserve. The available map suggests landfall would be just beyond here, cutting the reserve off from the rest of the wash and completely changing the movement of sediment along the coast, as well as land lost to the interior to road and rail links. Evidence from tidal barriers in the Netherlands, like Oosterschelde, also suggests that there's increased flooding occurring on the coast to the north from displaced water that will otherwise freely enter the wash. On this side here, this is Home Deans. This is a Norfolk Wildlife Trust National Nature Reserve again. Similar permanent damage and losses to Gibraltar Point, putting the Deans at risk, subjecting the inland habitats and the coast stretching east to increased flood risk as well. Looking at aerial photos of the area, there are only a few fields between Oldham, Stanton and Hull next to the sea in which to fit the new roads that would be needed to link the 149 to the barrage dual carriageway, so permanently changing the nature of the hinterland as well. So this is, if I get the pronunciation right, this is Siwan Lake Tidal Power Station on the west coast of South Korea. So walls are typically built to stop movement. In the wash, it would stop 12 miles of open sea, with all the impacts we've heard Tim talk about previously. The reduced tidal ranges and increased water levels would risk losses of sandbanks and salt marshes, and there's a risk river floodwater would back up if the barrage isn't able to clear the water into the North Sea like it can at the moment. Here comes the seal again. Value for money on these slides. The only way out of the North Sea for species such as seals and fish would be through the lock gates or the underwater turbines. There would only be a small area at one end. I say small, I don't know how wide it would need to be, but for these species to move through the boat lock. And even if it's possible to deter wildlife from the turbines and the gates are kept open, this would still be a significant impact on wildlife movement in and out of the wash. And it wouldn't get any easier for birds either, with proposals for the wind turbines on the barrage to power the freight exchange, potentially blocking bird passage and resulting in increased collision risk. I'm going to talk a little bit about climate change. Thanks. So climate change is a key pressure on marine life. We hear that the barrage will act as a green energy hub, powering 100% renewable freight hub, but we think this will actually have a negative impact. We've heard people in the audience talk about the amount of carbon a 12-mile-long seawall would need to create. And even if you stick all the turbines on, how long will that take to actually become net zero? Will it take us beyond 2050 when we're expected to be net zero as a legal target? Another slide I wanted to make sure we had a look at, this has come up, I think, in presentations tonight and in the press, is flood protection. Many of you will have seen this picture before showing projected flooding in 2050. But this picture is often misattributed. It shows a prediction of relative water levels in the worst average yearly storms in 2050. But it's produced by Climate Central, a climate modelling company in the United States, and their model doesn't actually have any data on our seawalls, salt washes or dunes. They don't even have complete data for the states where they're based. So this only predicts where water theoretically could reach if there were no defences. So remember that when you see this picture. And it also fails to take into account the shoreline management plans. There are long-term plans up to 2050 for holding the line and adapting when salt marshes and dunes move in response to natural pressures. So to say that there are no plans and that the coast is vulnerable in 2050 and it's all going to flood, we believe is wrong. For significant areas of natural flood defence like salt marsh at risk. So just to conclude, I'd like you to take away just a few points from our presentation tonight. So the wash is irreplaceable, one of the most important areas for wildlife in the country. It's also a very fragile habitat, dependent on its connection to the surrounding coast and the wider North Sea. It would destroy much of the wash as we know it, with widespread loss of legally protected habitats and species. And to say, finally, to say that the barrage is the only option to save the wash and solve these problems is wrong in our belief. There is no need for this project. Flood protection, freight capacity, green energy, all these can be delivered through existing plans or other measures that don't involve destroying one of our most precious wildernesses. Thank you so very much.
corner for a start.